Well, good morning, everyone. Hopefully, Charles will join us a little bit later. Welcome to the February 8th, 2012 PDC Board of Commissioners meeting. Tracy, please call the roll.
Commissioner Dixon?
Here.
Commissioner Mullis?
Here.
Commissioner Strauss?
Here.
Commissioner Wilhoit? Chair Andrews?
Here. First of all, I got to tell you, I have to be at City Hall to be part of a presentation at 9:30. The mall won a national AIA award, very prestigious award. And since I was president of the Portland Mall Management, Inc. from 2004 to 2009, they've asked me to be part of the presentation. So I will walk out sometime about 9:15, and we'll be turning the meeting over to Commissioner Mullis. Thank you very much. Thanks. Commissioner reports, I would briefly say I have had a busy couple of weeks. I've met with Eileen and Charlie, had lunch with Steve Novick, went to the PBA retreat, which was a little more upbeat this year, traveled to Sutherland to meet with co-speaker, what's his name? Hannah. I was going to say Hera. Bruce Hanna and 3 members of Ways and Means, and visited an interesting graywater plant. Patrick and I have been interviewing brokers for the Oregon Sustainability Center, so we will have one hired fairly soon. And then yesterday, they had the Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative kickoff. All 6 of the neighborhoods that we gave the opportunity to apply went through the exercise, and we're very excited to be part of the program. And I learned that is the last time that I go to an event where the mayor is without having prepared remarks, because he always asks me to make them. So it was a busy week, good. Also, I think you probably read the economic news has been really good. The job growth news has been really good, both on a national and a local basis. So maybe some of the things that we're doing and the city's doing and the state's doing are kicking off, heading in. Steve, anything? Ashka? You have anything for, yeah, Ashka?
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say I attended our second Neighborhood Economic Development meeting that we had here since our last meeting, and that continues to be a really exciting initiative that we have here, and we have a really dedicated group of people in that committee. So I'm looking forward to our next meeting, which will be sometime this month. And I was also very pleased to hear about the announcement yesterday. I heard that you did have to make remarks on the spot, which I'm sure you're very good at doing. And you guys have been staying busy, so I want to thank you for all the work that you continue to do around here constantly. As well as I just wanted to say that our CFO, she's not here today, Julie Cody, who's going to be leaving us. This would have maybe been her last meeting, but she's just been such a bubbly spirit around here, and she's going to be truly missed. So hopefully we'll be able to send a little kickoff end of her time here at some point.
Great, thank you. John?
The Oregon legislature, as I'm sure everyone knows, went into its first official short session February 1, and I've been down there pretty much on a daily basis ever since, and talking to members about the Sustainability Center, trying to help move that project forward. And on Monday, there was a very good hearing on the Oregon Investment Act, which Treasurer Wheeler and legislators from both parties and both chambers have been supporting in a very bipartisan fashion that I think will help coordinate the state's economic development efforts. So it's very interesting. It's going very fast, and we'll see where it all lands in about 3 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the hard work on the Sustainability Center. Don't give up. All right, Patrick.
Thank you, Chair Andrews. Good morning, Commissioners. It has been, continues to be busy times here at PDC, and I just want to reiterate what Chair Andrews said about yesterday's event. We continue to have these milestones in our Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative, and yesterday was another one. All 6 of these districts had gone through 2 months of kind of rapid fire organizing, and they all stepped up So for me, it just reaffirms the whole premise behind the initiative, which is if we can put a few dollars to work, we can really unleash a lot of energy, as well as other resources. But just the effort and energy that's gone into this has been impressive. So it's a very new model for us, and we're looking forward to the results. And I appreciate your stepping up and without any notice to talk. But as Commissioner Dixon points out, you're a pro at this. So, the other thing that's coming up, I just want to point out, and you've heard about this many times, but we will be doing the official launch of the Metro Export Plan on February 15th, next week. That's the PBA is hosting a breakfast, and they've allowed us to use that time slot to do the official launch. So you've heard the plan. The Brookings institution folks will be back in town, and we'll be able to present it, and we'll be the first of the 4 cities to launch our initiative. And so there'll be the mayor, and it'll be a whole panel of folks to talk about trade, international trade issues, and what we need to do locally to promote exports. And then we'll be able to benefit from a national media strategy that Brookings is undertaking to promote this initiative. So looking forward to that. And then the real work begins. The implementation of that plan gets transferred to Greater Portland, Inc., and we've agreed to help support them financially above our existing contribution, and other local agencies have agreed. Metro, the Port, the City of Beaverton, and it looks like the City of Hillsborough will all step up to support with that plan. So it's a great example of the kind of regional coordination that we've talked about on economic development. And then last week, PDC submitted on behalf of the region and the state our application for a regional patent and trademark office. So the patent office, the U.S. Patent Office, has put out a solicitation for regions around the country to kind of make a case for why the patent office should put a regional office there. While their plans aren't specific, they have indicated an interest in putting 2 to 3 regional patent offices around the country to help with their own workforce issues, so that they can attract and retain a pretty highly educated workforce in an environment that has a better cost of living than the D.C. metro area. They have a significant backlog of patent applications, and this is how their business plan is going to address that. And we feel like we've made a great case for that, and it was once again a case of unprecedented collaboration. We had signatures on the letter of support, like 3 or 4 pages long. Nike, Phil Knight signed the letter of support. Folks from Intel. So I think there's a strong support for it, but this goes to Washington, and we'll see what happens. Our delegation is very involved in this, including Senators Wyden and Merkley. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. In terms of appearances, I had a busy schedule in January. Beginning on January 6th, the governor convened a conversation in North Portland at Awami, jointly hosted by Governor Kitzhaber and Sam Brooks, to talk about minority small business development. There are about 40 of us locally to talk about what we're doing, and so it was nice that the governor talked about this during his campaign, and he came back to continue the conversation. On January 10th, I had the opportunity to appear on OPB in the morning to talk about the Sustainability Center, all the work that everybody's been doing to get the word out about the Sustainability Center has been paying off, and this was another opportunity to go on and talk with someone from the legislature around the pros and cons of that project. On the January 16th, which was the holiday for Martin Luther King Jr., his birthday, I had the opportunity to speak at the Scanner breakfast. So that was quite an honor, and also had the opportunity to hear what I think is pretty inspiring call to action by the keynote speaker, a gentleman by the name of Mike Green, who's promoting increased efforts to promote innovation and entrepreneurship within the minority community, but in particular within the African American community. And so I'm following up with him around that initiative. I think it fits quite closely with a lot of the work that we've been doing on both the entrepreneurship side as well as our neighborhood economic development. On the 31st, I had a chance to speak before the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and talk about our entrepreneurship and innovation work as well. And then once again, the following day on the 1st of February, I appeared before the Urban Summit hosted by Mercy Corps. And once again, same topic, minority entrepreneurship. This was more specifically around access to capital. But I do feel like we're over the next 6 months to a year, we can begin to bring together the work that we've been doing on entrepreneurship with the work that we've been doing around neighborhood economic development and social equity. I think that those agendas are going to come together in a nice way. And then lastly, as we've been doing for the past few months, I wanted to highlight a few new employees. I don't know that they're here, but within human resources, we hired the latest hire that kind of rounds out our human resources department. Her name is Donna Gaddu. She has 20 years of experience in human resources. She worked at Tidewater Barge Lines. She worked at Schnitzer Steel, Western Financial Savings, and she was at Tidewater for 13 years, where she kind of has her longest space of experience. But she's has significant experience around benefits and compensation, as well as managing union contracts. So she's going to be a significant help to Michelle Shelton, who's our HR manager. So that's a great hire for us. We also brought on Aaron Pratt on the Central City team. He's a project manager. He will work with Lisa Abwaf on green development. Aaron was the U.S. representative for an organization called BRE, which is the British version of LEAD. So he was working in England for a while and then came to the U.S. So he has significant experience around green development, green building issues, and he'd been using space here when he worked for BRE, and so it's been an easy transition for him. But he'll add to Lisa's team. And the last is, as you all know, Lorena Ramirez, our receptionist right out there in the lobby. She had been on kind of a temporary basis, and so she became a permanent employee just this past month. So that's a nice step for her. And then, as Commissioner Dixon mentioned, we did get the unfortunate news that Julie Cody will be resigning, leaving the organization on March 2nd. Julie has been a significant contributor to the agency for, I think, over a decade. We will have another board meeting before she leaves, so we can talk about the celebration and all those great things, and all of it is justified. But I did want to, in Julie's honor, I did want to point out that we once again received the Government Finance Officer Association's Distinguished Budget Award for our 11-12 budget, and this can become an annual event, but it really does. The fact that we continue to receive this award kind of highlights the quality of the budget work that we do on an annual basis. It takes up a lot of our time, and when we're in the middle of it, like we are now, it feels like it just when is it going to end? But it pays off in terms of this type of recognition. But I think it demonstrates to the public the kind of accountability that we have when we use taxpayer dollars. And Julie has been overseeing that process for a long time. And once again, I think the challenge for us in replacing Julie is to maintain the consistency of the operation that we've had there, not just around the budget work, but also around our finance and accounting work and the other operations work. So congratulations to Julie and Tony Barnes and Faye Brown and all the analysts, but also, once again, just a sign of this is what we're going to miss when Julie leaves. So, but more to come on that in a few weeks. So, thanks.
Thank you, Patrick. Sorry to see that you have little to do on our board on a daily basis. I too want to echo. We'll really miss Julie. She's kind of the rock, I think, in the financial world. And while I'm always happy for an employee that finds a position that their heart tells them that they need to have, it's still unfortunate that we're going to have to refill that position. So we'll look forward to some sort of an event for her. Next on the agenda is public comment for items not on the agenda, and we don't have anybody signed up. Doesn't look like we have anyone in the audience. Just want to make sure before we move on. So we will go to the regular agenda. It's an action item, Resolution 6918, authorize Executive Director to approve grant funding agreement with SPF Brewery Blocks LLC for Project Matador. Mr. Shane. I don't want to get too far ahead of this, but I have to say that this particular action is near and dear to my heart. Last March, my cell phone rang on a Saturday afternoon, and it said Sam Adams was on the other side. And I answered it, and he said, "What are you doing next week?" I said, "Well, what do I need to do?" And he said, "We're going to Spain. But don't worry, we'll be back on Thursday." We actually went on Tuesday. I think we were home on Friday. It was quite a trip, and Kevin Lynch is here. Kevin flew all the way over for even less time than I was there. Kevin's with the local office, and he was a big help. But we had a really great meeting with the chief financial officer in Madrid, and I think that it had some effect in terms of what we're going to do here today. With that, Mr. Shane and Ms. Neal.
Good morning, Chair Andrews, Commissioners, Executive Director Quinton. My name is Stephen Shane, but before we start the presentation, I want to step back and thank the cross-functional team that has moved this project forward. First of all, I'd like to thank Christine Sale, Becky Marsh, Lisa Graham, Jennifer Nolfi, Lou Bowers, Patrick Quinton, particularly Chair Andrews and Mayor Adams to take that effort to go to Spain. This has been the gestation has been about a year to make this happen, but it is a cross-functional, collaborative way PDC works together to move our economic development strategies, our cluster strategies forward. Before we talk about the actual transaction, Pam Neal, who's been an integral leading part of this, will go ahead and talk to you before we talk about the transaction itself.
And after our presentation, the CEO of Iberdrola, Ralph Corey, is going to get up and make some comments. So, Chair Andrews, Commissioner, Executive Director Quinton, Iberdrola's long-term presence in Portland advances our clean tech strategy and maintains our leadership in this industry. In the recent Clean Edge report, Oregon ranks second in the nation for clean energy leadership. We have several competitive advantages here. We're early adopters and currently rank 6th in the nation for installed wind. We also have one of the highest concentrations of leading firms and talent here, including the North American headquarters for Vestas, Iberdrola, and Element Power. The energy industry has recently slowed on the development side, and this is primarily due to the expiration of the production tax credit at the federal level. Continued support from local, state, and federal government is critical in remaining a supportive environment where this industry can succeed. Action today will also add to our existing accomplishments in clean tech. This includes the recent investment by Vestas and Solo Power. We've also been working with Iberdrola, PGE, and other wind farm operators to identify opportunities for our advanced manufacturers to provide maintenance and replacement parts for wind farms already operating in the Northwest. Several of our manufacturing firms have received contracts from this work. And PDC was recently awarded the Jobs and Innovation Accelerator Challenge Grant to continue our work to connect our wind farm operators with our advanced manufacturing expertise here. Iberdrola is recognized as a market leader in renewables. They own, develop, and operate, and are now the second largest operator in the U.S. They currently operate 5,800 megawatts in the U.S., which is equal to powering up about 1.5 million average American homes. They've invested more than $9 billion in the U.S. in wind farms, solar ranches, and other facilities. Recently, they just invested in a new state-of-the-art control center in Portland that allows them to monitor all of their turbines, farms, and substations in the U.S. right here from Portland. And their presence doesn't just benefit the Portland region. Iberdrola has a significant presence operating wind farms in the Northwest, which creates jobs and generates property taxes for our rural areas. Iberdrola established their North American headquarters here in Portland in 2001 with 12 employees. Currently, they have 350 high-wage, high-skilled jobs here in Portland. Indirectly, they support 960 jobs. Some of their positions include electrical and mechanical engineers, wind technicians, meteorologists, and construction managers, as an example. And as reported in the recent Oregonian article, many of these employees are filled by those who have served in the military, just another benefit to these local positions.
Commissioners, the transaction that's before you today for your consideration is authorizing a grant to SPF Brewery Blocks, which is the owner of the Brewery Block number 4. There's 4 blocks there. The transaction is a grant to this the landlord of about of $1,155,000. This grant has been configured as a grant as opposed to a loan. Part of it is the transaction of the way the property has been set up. The grant will provide rent concessions, direct rent concessions to Iberdrola once tax increment approved tenant improvements have been made. But this grant also has to comply completely with all of PDC's regulations. Business workforce, green building, prevailing wage, diversity. The other requirements in there are a 10-year lease that, and it's also that there's other commitments that will need to be made by Iberdrola as well. One of the things that we've negotiated with Iberdrola to guarantee, in a sense, the transaction is the first of a kind at PDC, a cluster development agreement with Iberdrola specifically and Iberdrola Renewables that have the holding and the operating company both have signed on to this cluster development agreement that needs to be signed before the grant disbursement takes place. So there's these 2 parts. One is we've been negotiating internationally and also locally. We've been internationally with Iberdrola in Spain to make sure that their partners here locally will understand how the CDA, the Cluster Development Agreement, also combines components of a community benefit agreement. There is good faith efforts. There's also requirements that in the Cluster Development Agreement with Iberdrola that they are required to maintain their location in this space for at least 7 years and maintain its tenancy under this lease. There are kind of penalties if they choose not to follow the requirements, but the best efforts are things that both PDC and Iberdrola will do. One is maintain the workforce, source goods, the other components of the community benefit agreements, things that they have done, also things that we are asking them to move things forward. One of the other items that we have is that we continue to work with them on a regular basis. Pam Neal is the relationship manager in this cluster, works with Iberdrola on a regular basis. Even during the transactions that we've been negotiating, she's been working with them on various supply chain work, and that will continue as we move forward. Just showing some of the compliance period of this 7 years, that the liquidated damages, as you can see in the first couple of years, there is a penalty plus a 25% premium to this. The $2 million is greater than what the amount of the lease grant will be. So there is a higher incentive for them to maintain that. Just want to again say the It's a grant to SPF brewery blocks. They have to, the direct dollars that are spent will go to Iberdrola. So if those dollars are not spent, it's going to be very hard for those dollars to move forward. Before we answer some questions, we'd like to have Ralph Curry join us.
Please. Good morning, Ralph.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Pleased to be here. Chairman Andrews, members of the commission, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and it's very important to us at Iberdrola. My name is Ralph Curry. I'm Chief Executive Officer and President of Iberdrola in the United States. And I can say with warm remarks that I'm here today on behalf of my colleagues in Portland and in Spain, Iberdrola worldwide, to first of all say thank you very much for your support, and we do appreciate it. Secondly, I'll talk a little bit briefly about our business, but I'd have to say that Pam's done a very good job on explaining the value proposition behind our business. And lastly, to affirm our long-term commitment to our Portland headquarters here in Portland, primarily in the Pearl District. And we do appreciate the support that you've given us. Just to review a little bit about our business, Iberdrola is the second largest producer of renewable energy in the United States. We own and operate about 5 gigawatts of wind and solar. This started in this very city, and it's expanded coast to coast. Most of you will know that we have about 600 megawatts of clean natural gas, very efficient fire generation at Klamath Falls. It's an important part of our business. Our business is part of a company that's called Iberdrola SA. It's the 5th largest utility in the world. And Iberdrola as a whole is the biggest producer of renewable energy in the world. The company's financially strong. We have an A- credit rating from the credit agencies. I think some of you will remember that 12 years ago we started this business. We created the business in Portland, and we had 12 employees and primarily no operating assets. Today, Iberdrola Renewables employs about 850 people across North America. It has invested about $9 billion in power plants. Quite the growth story. Our Portland headquarters, as Pam said, is home to many high-skilled professionals. And I think many of you have been on our floors, and you can see that we employ engineers, meteorologists, developers, construction managers, financial experts, you name it. This is a very complex business. Energy market's gotten very complex, and in order to manage that, you have to have very high-skilled professionals. Iberdrola is just the type of company that drives Portland to where you have been pushing the city. We recognize that Portland's a hub for innovation, clean energy, and I'd have to say that's what we're all about. If you come to our office, which many of you have had, I think you feel that. You referred to this, but a common question I get, did the personal visit from Mayor Adams and you, Chair Adams, to our parent company in Spain, did it really make a difference? And I can say for sure, is sitting right here today, that with a resounding yes, it did matter. And your efforts to reach out to our global executives focused the attention on Portland. And Portland, as we all know, shows quite well as an international city. And I cannot overstate the value of personal, face-to-face communication with my colleagues in Spain. So the visit was appreciated. Likewise, the follow-up work done by the PDC staff also has made a difference in our decision to remain here. Several attractive alternatives are always present when we did our real estate due diligence, but the arrangements that you're considering here today certainly will deepen our roots in Portland and likewise allows us to meet these rapidly changing technology type issues that are needed in our business. On another note, you've read in the paper that the company reduced its workforce in Portland by about 25 employees. And we certainly find ourselves in a place with low power prices driven primarily by low natural gas prices and little or no regulatory certainty. This has caused us to look differently and change our business strategy, and it's away from some of our future development and towards operating the existing assets that are repeats, $9 billion. And so just a couple things to remember about us. Probably number one, our change in strategy is not a signal that we're exiting the business in North America or in the United States. No doubt about it, you guys know it, the energy business is cyclical. We're on the downside of a cycle as we speak. At some point, we're very confident that growth will continue and we'll be very well positioned to capitalize on it. The second thing that you alluded to in the presentation is regulatory certainty does matter, and especially matters to the renewables end of the business. The primary policy driver in the renewables, and this policy driver puts renewables on an equal playing field with a lot of the other energy sources, is this production tax credit. And for our business, this will end this year. Both parties in Congress have supported it over the past, and it has created investment, it has created jobs, and it has created a clean energy environment. And we're certainly an excellent example of that. Today, with the credit due to expire and gridlock in Congress, we very much think that investment in renewables business will decline across the United States. However, our parent company still believes that the U.S. market is among the best in the world, and when the PTC is extended, or until the PTC is extended, we'll concentrate on running our fleet as most efficiently and as well as we can. And we're pretty much committed to leading the industry in the way that we operate. So with that, in short, I'll say that we're here to stay. We deeply appreciate the commission, the mayor, and the city. We're glad to call Portland home. We'll continue to work with the PDC to strengthen the industry. We're excited about workforce development, advisory bodies, this whole idea of a supply chain effort with local businesses that are centralized here in Portland. That's all what we're about. And with that, I'll just say I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We appreciate the support and be happy to answer any questions that I can.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time to be here today, and especially thank you for the kind comments about the trip. When I came back and was interviewed, I said that I was pretty confident that Iberdrola was going to stay in Portland. I didn't know where. But the direct conversation we had with the chief financial officer was that the company loved Portland, that the staff had grown here, had grown a business from Portland that they were very, very proud of. But the largest company in the world in this business, when a lease comes up, they have to take a look at all of the options. And so he was following the due diligence that they normally follow, and we were going to look other places. So I was confident that Portland was going to win at the end, and we did. Just a couple of quick questions or maybe clarifications. The grant actually goes to the landlord, but there is a direct tie in terms of making sure that every dollar that goes to the landlord ends up in as a benefit to Iberdrola.
That's correct, Chair.
Could you elaborate just a little bit in terms of this? This is the first time that have gone a little bit further in terms of the agreement with regard to the workforce. Ralph alluded to it. You alluded to it earlier. I'd just like to get it even clearer that this is the first time that we have attached these other requirements to a grant, and I think it's a great deal, and I'm sure we're going to be making it a part of our process in the future.
Chair, when we initially had some discussions, it was to enter into a community benefit agreement with Iberdrola, and the cluster development agreement that we actually have has expanded upon some of those requirements. Some of them is the more of not just the good faith effort, but actual requirements of what both parties will need to do. I think it strengthens the cities and the private parties' obligations. It's something that we're going to continue to monitor. I think, as you also mentioned about the direct funds going there, and as Mr. Curry also represented, and you talked about the lease negotiations, we need to find the way of making the city of Portland competitive to other regions of the country. And I think the other part, too, is that because we do have these dollars that are being invested, we wanted to have more than just some good faith efforts.
Thanks. That's all the questions I had. I'll start with Commissioner Mullis this morning.
Thank you, and Ralph, thanks for being here this morning and sharing some remarks with us as far as your company's intents here, and that's appreciated, and obviously I think all of us and everyone in the city is very pleased that you're making a long-term decision to stay here and invest here. A couple of comments that I picked up on, and I know the production tax credit is a real issue, not only for you, but for all renewable developers and the whole industry in the United States. And I know our senators are working on it. It's just another one of those issues in Washington, D.C. that everybody agrees is good and worthy, but is high-centered with everything else, which is a real shame. But I hope everybody can collaborate and help move the parties forward and get resolution on that, because that's, I think, key to your continued success and everybody else's that's in that industry. So I hope we can continue the communication on that and everybody work towards resolution of that issue. And then the second one is the supply chain, and to me that's the one that hopefully we can look at as a way to grow your presence and so many other companies in the area. I know there's some that are listed in our briefing, local companies that are either were manufacturing parts before that can fit in, or are looking at changing what they do in their place of business to supply parts. And obviously if we can help grow those manufacturing jobs here in Oregon and put people back to work, that's a good thing for everybody. So I don't really have any specific questions. I think the part that you brought up about having the stronger ties to workforce hiring in exchange for the money is a very good thing that was negotiated. So I want to thank you, Steve, and all the other staff that you mentioned for that, and thank Chair Andrews for his shortly noticed trip to Spain. So appreciate that flexibility and the time that you took. So thank you.
Yeah, and it was coach and in row 47 in the middle.
Oh, perfect.
In the middle.
Just what everybody hopes for.
Thank you, Commissioner Dixon.
Thank you for being here today. We are very happy that you've decided to stay here. Obviously, 57,000 square feet is not something that we want to have vacant during this time. So it's important that you're staying here. I've heard you have a world-class facility, and some of our other commissioners have visited your site. So I look forward to being able to visit at some point as well. What I think is really important is that from 10 years ago, you had 12 people, and you grew to 850, and 350 of those jobs are still here in Portland. So we're excited for what can happen in the next 10 years here. It's easy to look at what all the negative aspects that could happen. Obviously, when we're in business, that's the risk that we take every day that we operate as businesses. But the hopes are obviously always to be able to maintain jobs and to create more jobs. And this is an important cluster for our organization. I'm hoping that it's going to be supported nationally, and you'll be able to just grow and expand and be, the leading industry that you're looking to be in, staying here in Portland for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So thank you. Thank you, Chair Andrews, Mayor Adams, everyone who's put efforts to getting you guys to stay here. It's very important, and we're excited to have you be here.
Thank you. We're pleased to be here.
Thanks. Commissioner Strauss?
Wow, thanks so much. Obviously, you're a poster child for the kinds of businesses that we want to bring to Portland and the kind of opportunities of bringing young, talented professionals here at high wages. I also want to thank Mr. Andrews for his trip over and coach the middle seat. We're going to double your salary next month, so very impressed. I just have a couple of minor questions. First, it indicates that the work, that the deadline is 2015. Steve, is there reason that the work wouldn't be completed before that, or why the 2015 date?
Commissioner Strauss, one of the things we wanted to do was to put a time limit to the amount, how long the grant would be out there, and so we wanted to find a way that to get the monies spent for tenant improvements and to get them spent sooner, which then would also then provide Iberdrola the benefits of those funds. It could happen sooner. It's really subject, and I think Mr. Curry could probably speak about some of the types of physical infrastructure improvements that they're planning to make.
That'd be great.
And so, this is not about changing carpet in offices. That's the central message. If you've been in our office, you'll see a lot of people, and we've alluded to the engineers and the meteorologists, and we're all about a flow of information. So certainly where we plan to use the money is to keep our facilities at a technological advantage. And a lot of this has to do with the wires and the way information is communicated, whether it goes to Spain. We have about 3,000 plus turbines. The information all comes into Portland. We analyze it here, and we send it off to Spain. The faster that we can move this information around, whether it can get to the meteorologists, whether it can get to our scheduling people, we alluded to the state-of-the-art control center, the better that information flows, the better we are meeting the challenges of a complex and very volatile energy environment. So we're pretty excited about what this allows us to do. You will see us knock down some walls to improve communications between different groups. And I just have to say, when you come over, this is such a complex business now, and the accountants, the tax people that are involved, and that's what makes the business, very exciting. And I just encourage you to come visit, because most people, when they get in there, say, gee, just a lot of interesting innovation, complexity that makes it an exciting business to be part of.
Spectacular. Steve, you also indicated that the work would be done in accordance with the PDC rules and regulations. Does this mean this will be a LEED tenant improvement?
It would require that it would have to meet at least the LEED Silver tenant improvement requirements.
Spectacular. And then the last question is, I'm hopeful that the tax credits will move forward at the end of the year. What happens if they don't, and what are the steps in place to prevent a staff reduction? Obviously, there might be some, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, one of if the worst would happen, we have, like we're saying, $9 billion worth of assets. And I have to say, in my experience in the 10 years, we've been used to the tax credits being extended, being held back, and this has kind of been a part, well, it's not kind of, it has been a part of the nation's energy policy. So we certainly don't like the fact that they're not extended, but we've certainly been able to live and deal with it. Right now, what's driving environmental policy in the United States is the individual states. And a lot of them have very, very strong state incentives. California is a good example. The Northwest is another good example. That will be the driver. What we'll really need is a clean energy policy. Renewables is part of it, and we'll have to deal with harder questions like what to do with nuclear, what to do with coal, what to do with natural gas. But what's exciting to me is the country has many options, and renewables is certainly a piece of the puzzle. But we won't go away. PDC or the production tax credit has a history of not being approved on time when it's expired. We can certainly deal with that. Don't like it though.
Thanks for selecting Portland. Thanks for your passion, and we look forward to your joining us to help recruit other businesses here. And I do look forward to coming to see your new space. Thank you.
Very good, and we very much appreciate the support.
Well, thank you, Steve and Pam. Great report. Thanks, Ralph, for being here today. I would look for a motion to approve Resolution 6918, authorize Executive Director to approve grant funding agreement with SPF Brewery Blocks, LLC for Project Matador.
So moved.
And if you're wondering why it's Project Matador, obviously we couldn't call it Project Iberdrola until a couple weeks ago.
Give it away.
That's great.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks for being in Portland.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, and we're a little ahead of time, and again, if I have to walk out before we get this approved, Commissioner Mullis will take over. It is Resolution 6919, Adopt Economic Opportunity Initiative Microenterprise Program Guidelines. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Andrews, Commissioners. I'm Kate Dean. I am one of the neighborhood managers here for PDC. With me here today is Gina Bell, who is new to PDC. She's been with us since September. She came to us from Adelante Mujeres, which is a small nonprofit based out in Forest Grove, and she has formerly been the manager of the Forest Grove Farmers Market. She has a lot of experience working with micro entrepreneurs and small businesses, and we're really lucky to have her as a part of our team. So I am going to take a few minutes here to just set some context for this action that you're taking, and then Gina is going to talk to you in more detail about the EOI Economic Opportunity Initiative Microenterprise Program. So the action that you're being asked to take today is to adopt guidelines for the Economic Opportunity Microenterprise Development Program. And by adopting these guidelines, we will then issue a request for proposal, soliciting proposals from nonprofit organizations to deliver technical assistance to very small businesses throughout Portland. And it will also authorize the executive director to receive the recommendations of an evaluation committee that will evaluate all the proposals and to sign contracts with them for these services. So let me back up just a minute and put a little bit of context around this action. So the Economic Opportunity Initiative was established in 2004 backed by the Bureau of Housing and Community Development. It was established as a poverty alleviation program and to serve very low-income individuals, generally at 50% of the median family income and below. The program came to PDC in 2009, and it has 3 sub-programs. The one that we're here to talk to you about today, the Microenterprise Program. We also have a youth workforce development program and an adult workforce development program. And I would anticipate that we'll be back later in the spring to talk to you about our youth workforce development program and next year to focus more on the adult workforce development program. Just a bit about the EOI program. It really is has some key features to be aware of. The hallmark of the program, because we are dealing with providing services to individuals who have more barriers than your average individual, we are focusing through this program on long-term, individualized, one-on-one support, either for business development or for workforce development. Individuals are enrolled in a 3-year program, and success is measured at the end of those 3 years, and it's defined as a 25% increase in income or gross sales. Since 2004, the program has served almost 2,000 very low-income individuals, and nearly 60% of those people that have been served have achieved that goal of a 25% increase in gross income or gross sales. The idea here that we, with the adoption of these new guidelines and some tweaks that we'll be making to the microenterprise program, is that we want to build on the success of an already very successful program and to increase its accountability. And then finally, I just wanted to put the microenterprise program in the context of PDC's other small business and entrepreneurship work. The microenterprise program is one component of PDC's small business development spectrum. So we have the microenterprise program through Economic Opportunity Initiative, which works with 5 or fewer businesses that have 5 or fewer employees, making less than 80% median family income. We also have a small business development program that we initiated this fall, which works with a little larger employers and is at serving businesses at 125% median family income and below. And we also have an entrepreneurship program, which is really hosted more under our traded sector business and industry part of PDC. Gina is really responsible not only for the EOI Microenterprise, but also for the Small Business Development Program. And those are really very much aligned, and we'll be making some tweaks here to make sure that we are fully aligned with our new neighborhood economic development strategy. And I expect that most of the businesses to be served by this program will be out in our neighborhoods. So with that level of context, I'd like to turn this over to Gina Bell and have her tell you a little bit more about the Microenterprise Development Program and the new RFP.
Good morning. The EOI Microenterprise Program funds nonprofit microenterprise development organizations to provide services to low-income business owners and startup entrepreneurs. In addition, it offers specialized support services such as access to market, credit repair, or legal services. We currently have 7 microenterprise service providers. Between July 2004 and June 2008, we served 480 microenterprises, and over half of those increased their business income by at least 25% after 3 years. We're currently serving 368 businesses, and of those, 53% are minorities and 88% live below the federal poverty line. Our most recent graduating class boasts an annualized revenue increase of $2.1 million with a median increase of $21,700 in gross sales after 3 years. The next slide really shows the impact of this program. These are the graduating class of 2010-11. They were startups at the time of enrollment. They had a $0 baseline in gross sales, and after 3 years, it rose up to $17,000 in median gross sales. And this next slide is existing businesses at the time of enrollment that graduated in 2010-11, and their baseline was $5,000 in median gross sales, and it went up to $26,500, which is about a 400% increase. And that makes a huge impact on anyone's business, but especially if you're low income. Our current providers are listed here. They've been working citywide with a variety of different microenterprises, and they've been the same providers since the program began in 2004. This map charts, as of March 2011, about half of the microenterprises that we've served. Some are home-based, others are not. And I would like to point out that the majority of them are in North, Northeast, Southeast, and East Portland. Oftentimes, PDC is criticized for its work only focusing on downtown, and this map really highlights all of the work that we're doing in other areas. We do want to make a few changes to the program, as Kate said, but we will continue to emphasize individualized services tailored to the specific needs of individual business owners and delivered primarily on a one-on-one basis. Additionally, the establishment of an ongoing long-term relationship between the client and the business specialist will continue to be an element of the program, and the delivery of service in a culturally specific manner and as close to the business as possible. Changes to the program include an expansion of outcome measures to align with national best practices. We will measure not only gross sales, but gross payroll, owner's draw, access to capital, as well as have an overall look at how the business has progressed. Have startups formalized their business? Are existing businesses strengthened? How have they been strengthened? Additionally, the success will be assessed annually, not just at year 3, which will add to the accountability of the program. The second change we'd like to do is an annual assessment of providers' service outputs, which will tell us what the providers are doing and how it's working. We will know what value we're getting for the dollars we've expended. And lastly, consistent with provider feedback and program analysis, we found that increasing the median family income to 80% will best serve businesses with good prospects for success. Very low income business owners will still be served under these income requirements, but it leaves room for additional positive economic development outcomes. Overall, we're taking the best from the existing program, adding accountability, effectiveness, opening up the pool to potential new providers for overall program success. And then moving forward, pending your approval of these guidelines, we'd like to issue an RFP this month. Those proposals would then be due back to us near the end of March. The grantees would be chosen mid-May, and we would expect the contracts to be in place and work to begin July 1st, 2012. And while everything that Kate and I have shared is really important, the best part about EOI are the clients, especially the successful ones. And so I would like to invite Victoria Gomez up here. She's the owner of Tonali's Donuts, and I believe she has generously bought some donuts for everyone to try. You can literally taste her success.
Oh, you're so generous. Thank you so much.
And
It's worth less than $15. We can have a donut.
And while Voodoo Donuts oftentimes gets the hype around town, in this slide we can see that Tonali's is the real deal. This Urban Spoon review reads, "Sure, I'll take my visitors to Voodoo so they can giggle as they order and marvel at the wonder of bacon and maple. But after they leave, I'm getting my own donuts at Tonali's." Victoria is going to share a little bit about her experience as an EOI client, and then we'll answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Welcome,
Good morning.
Victoria.
My name is Victoria. I'm owner with my husband. We're a family business at Tonali's Donuts. We've been with MISO since 2005, and we have 9 employees now on payroll. We started off just me and my husband, my brother-in-law, just working. We're open from 6:30 to midnight every day. You know, we've seen it grow, we've seen it change. And without MISO support, we honestly can't say that we wouldn't be where we're at now. Our revenues were $98 a day, whereas we totally increased I could actually say 500%. So it gives us time to give us, we're a family of 5. We have a lot of support from MISO, not only monetarily, but also in support with menus, making us grow. We also have a restaurant that we opened up with MISO support, and we also have employees there. We have currently 5 employees there at the restaurant. I mean, we're growing. MISO has helped us tremendously so much. We bought out our partner, and they also helped us out on that. We got a lawyer there as well who helped us out on that. And we're tremendously thankful for all the support that MISO has gave us. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. We also got help. Our employees one of the girls had their own business now in Vancouver, opened up her own donut shop. And she came out from drugs and everything that you could imagine, that nobody gave her a chance. We gave her a chance, and thanks to MISO, we got her with us, and now she has her own shop and running that as well.
And MISO, for clarification, is one of our providers. It's Microenterprise Services of Oregon. Thank you, Victor.
Well, thank you. Congratulations on your success, and appreciate really all of the kind comments about the program. I'll just remind the Commission that this came over to us in 2009 as part of the creation of the Portland Housing Bureau. This was under the old Housing Department, and was part of the mayor's strategy to make things a little bit more efficient? Did it really make sense for workforce to be in the housing department? No. So we've had it since, and we have been running it since basically under their guidelines. So we've learned a lot in the last 2 years, and what we've learned is being put into place here with this resolution today. I know there's a little angst on the part of the service providers because they have had the opportunity to provide these services for some period of time. I want to make it clear that it's not that we're unhappy with any of them. It's just every once in a while you need to reevaluate the programs that are being presented, and there are new organizations out there, and you got to give everybody an opportunity to present what they can do, and so that we can get the best leverage, the best bang for our buck. The other point is this is general fund money. I mean, the map showed you that the dots have nothing to do with urban renewal districts. So it's one of those few programs that we can provide citywide and do provide citywide, and appreciate City Council's continued support, although it does look like funding over the next couple of years will probably be reduced. And part of that, I think, has to do with some federal funding that comes through the program. So thank you very much. I guess I've got to come out and buy some donuts. Steve?
Wow, thanks for your heartwarming story. It was really a wonderful success story, and I think it's really the best way we should be investing our money in Portland, because the small investment has much bigger returns, and we're very appreciative. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, we do have a lot of customers, or rather in our street in Alberta, they open up the shops, they close down within 6 months, 2 months, and they're closed down. They reopen new ones and they close down. And really thanks to me, so we have been successful and been there. So thank you once again.
Mr. Dixon?
Well, the donuts, you sold us on that already. I smell them in the background here. This is very impressive. The map is fabulous because it shows that, all these companies that are out here, if even just one employee is hired, which we know it's more than that, that's over 400 jobs. So if it's double, it could be 800. Small businesses are important, and I'm really pleased that we're able to have a focus in that industry as well. It makes, when we vote on other larger industries, that then there's kind of a balance, and it's so nice to have you sharing your story. I completely understand the family business dynamics, and it's grueling, but it's also rewarding in the end. So wonderful success story, and much success to you in the future. We hope you come back here and you've got 40 or 50 employees. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And when I was going through my book earlier this week, the map that has already been referred to twice, so that really stuck out in my mind. It's a great effort to be able to be all over the city instead of being restricted to our certain zones. And thanks for taking the time to come in this morning and share your stories and some of your products. It's greatly appreciated. And you're on Alberta Street, did I hear?
Alberta and 28.
And 28. Okay. Well, now I know where to stop next time I'm in that neighborhood.
Anytime.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Strauss, you've got a question?
Just one question. At the beginning of the slideshow, you talked about serving nonprofit businesses. Is this program strictly limited to nonprofit businesses or open to all businesses?
No, the businesses that are served are for-profit businesses, but the technical assistance services to those businesses are delivered by our nonprofit partners. So Microenterprise Services of Oregon, Hispanic Chamber, to name a couple, are the nonprofits that we contract with. I think Gina is going to pull up the list. These are our providers. They are all nonprofit technical experts in assisting businesses to, understand profit and loss statements, to teach them how to develop those, business plans, marketing, other aspects of running a small business that for those people who take the great leap and have the fortitude to get into small business, sometimes you get in there and you realize, wow, this is a lot more complex than I knew it was going to be. And so, I didn't know I had to be an HR manager, a marketing expert, a finance expert, and an expert in my product. And so what the nonprofit providers really do is come in, identify businesses that are appropriate for service, and then help them to be better able to succeed in business.
Anything else? Okay. I would look for a motion to approve Resolution 6919, Adopt Economic Opportunity Initiative Microenterprise Program Guidelines.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye, and thank you.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those are the two action items for today. The next is a briefing, update on the Advanced Manufacturing Cluster and Portland Enterprise Zone.
Sure, I think we're going to switch it around so you can be here for the last item. I have you. You can leave in 12 minutes, 9:21.
Oh, my blood pressure will be off the charts.
City Council always runs late.
Always? There wasn't much on the agenda in front of me. All right. We're going to turn around, so we're going to do the update on the green building enhancements to our offices here. So, Ann?
That's right.
Commissioner Strauss is going to like this one.
I figure he's going to have something to say.
Every presenter gets a donut, too.
It's a good bonus.
That's right.
Our new incentive plan.
Good morning, Chair Andrews. I'm Ann Price. I'm the Business Operations Manager here at PDC, and Patrick Gortmaker is going to start us off with this good news story.
Good morning. I'm Patrick Gortmaker from Calvert Company. Chair Andrews, Commissioners, Executive Director Quinton, I am pleased to be here representing the Calvert family to share with you an incredible achievement for the Mason Airmen Building. In 2010, the PDC asked that this building achieve a LEED rating or at a minimum an ENERGY STAR score of 80 or above. Not only did we rise to the occasion, but we exceeded the expectations by scoring an 86 on the ENERGY STAR and a LEED Gold certification under the existing building operation and maintenance program for this building. And for a 1908 uninsulated masonry building, that's quite an achievement. And it was not a path that was achieved overnight. The first green decision, of course, was made over 10 years ago by deciding to renovate and preserve this building. And at that time, we designed and implemented most of the systems that we could, upgrading the mechanical system, of course, the raised floors, Commissioner Strauss, and the plumbing and electrical systems. We stopped just short of LEED certification at that time due to the cost and timing of occupancy. But during the lease negotiations in 2010, of course, Calvert began an evaluation of this building using the team of Sarah Architects with Clark Brockman, Lisa Pedersen, and Priya Premchandran. And we sought the help of additional consultants, Sean Murray from Alliance Systems, to go through the complex mechanical and plumbing systems to look for upgrades to meet the LEED standards. And what we quickly realized during that evaluation is this building at that point was already operating at a high level of a high standard. And the key reason for this mostly is the day-to-day maintenance and operations of this building is in the hands of the PDC. PDC occupies all but one floor of this particular building. And a knowledgeable building engineer, of course, is key to any building operation. And I would like to point out that there is no one in this room that knows more about this building than Mr. Bruce Geyer. His knowledge and information about this building made the evaluation and adaptation of the required LEED challenges and achievement of our ENERGY star of 86 possible. Without Bruce Geyer, we would not be here today with this LEED Gold rating. Also, the PDC had already jumped 100% into the green building operations with the implementation of the PDC Green Team headed by Dan Spiro. Dan and his team helped coordinate the internal efforts with the PDC staff, and these successful efforts, of course, contributed to the points required for the LEED rating. Achieving the final certification from the U.S. Green Building Council is no easy feat. It requires incredible oversight, patience, diligence, and coordination. And this, of course, was made again possible by the Sarah team and single-handedly by Priya from Chandran with Sarah Architects of all the documentation and coordination that goes along with any LEED certification. So again, without this entire collaborative effort, and it really was a collaborative effort from start to finish, we wouldn't be here. And I thank you for the opportunity to tell you about this and the entire team that put this together for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Andrews and the Commission and Director Quinton. It's a pleasure to be here with Patrick and with Ms. Bryce. It's been an honor to work with the whole team from PDC, CalBER, Alliant, and Sarah. This is Sarah's first certified LEED EB-O&M project, so it's great. It's a flagship for a whole new thing we're beginning. And I want to really point out that it demonstrates PDC's continued leadership both externally and internally. Externally, your certification illustrates the point of a spear of a whole new wave of work for the industries associated with the built environment, enhancing existing buildings. There's 320 billion square feet of buildings out there, and we need to fix all of them. Internal leadership, as Patrick talked about, was demonstrated by PDC long before we got here. The Green Team policies and procedures were largely equal to or exceeding LEED standards when we arrived. You just didn't have all of the measurement and verification pieces in place. So huge kudos to Dan Sparrow and his team. The O&M, led by Bruce Geyer, as you heard, was also way ahead of what we'd expect, especially for a building of this vintage. It's worth noting that the building and policies you had in place when we arrived were running the building at a LEED Silver, LEED EB O&M standard before we touched it. So the gold was achieved by doing additional things. It's worth noting that this work of improving existing buildings is an integral part of the city's and PDC's clean tech cluster work. Growth in this area will lead to green-collar jobs in companies like Sarah Architects, Alliant Mechanical, and all of the construction trades. Sarah, who's been a dedicated resident of Old Town since 1968, has grown by 25% in the last year. Sarah's creating a whole new business unit devoted to existing buildings, and that announcement will be coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And the Mason Airmen building is our first certification and the flagship case study for that effort. To achieve your gold certification, the work of plumbers, electricians, mechanical contractors, engineers, and architects were all employed. Thank you for that. Let's also not forget to put the main reason why we do this work. It's not the plaque. It's not even the certification. It's to improve building owners' bottom line and optimize the working conditions for the people in the buildings. That's the only reason the buildings exist. You got 10% additional energy savings out of this work, 35% water savings out of this work. And Bruce Geyer did not forget this. I will testify to you that he used this certification as a leverage point to reduce PDC's operating costs. You have a very special asset in him. Thanks for the privilege to be a part of the project and part of today's celebration.
Thanks. I think the other two gentlemen have said all of the details, but just want to say again that PDC is really thrilled to be walking the talk of the city and the green building effort, that we're a part of that stock for our government buildings. And again, just great acknowledgement to Bruce Geyer and to the Green Team for all the work. A huge portion of the points is really about the culture of the tenant, and without having a cooperative tenant in a building, it's hard, very hard to achieve LEED Gold. And so with PDC leading the way, we sort of had an edge there. So we're thrilled to be here and thrilled to be able to present the big plaque here that we want to do some photo op. And Patrick.
Nope, I'm going to have to run.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Congratulations, Bruce. Okay. Thanks for all your hard work.
And we all know who Bruce is, but I would like to identify and recognize both Priya and Sean from Alliance Systems and Priya from Sarah.
I'm sorry, I missed the last comment. Sorry about that.
Oh, I was actually
acknowledging
Priya and Sean sitting in the front row right here.
Great. Yeah. Thank you very much.
They actually did all the work along with your team.
Right.
Exactly.
Great. Thank
Do we
you.
still want to do the photo?
We should, yeah.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and do a
Right.
photo. And, yeah.
We're gonna go here or out there?
I think I'm going to just do it right here, right?
Right here. Clark, how are you?
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Clark. It's a great accomplishment.
Put it on the photo first.
How about? But you guys. Where we being? John, what do you want? Right here in this area. Right here? Yeah.
Wondered why you were wearing a tie today.
Just this part of it.
Commissioner Strauss right here. Bruce, you guys ready?
I'm good.
Come on in, come on in.
I think you should give me that. All right.
Okay, now this half of the group, if you can curl in towards me just a little bit, push in, yeah, there you go, come on in, there you go. All right, okay, everybody, 1, 2, 3, smile.
Cool. Congratulations.
All right, and Commissioner Amolis, if you could pop out a little bit over here, because it looks like Strauss has 2 heads. All right, ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Everybody look right here. One more. Perfect, thank you.
Congratulations. Yes, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. God, it's just all good news stories today, huh?
We got more good news here today, too.
I'm taking this one. I hope there's not bacon inside of it, though.
Sweetheart. What a wonderful story.
Okay.
That's a heartwarming story.
I always appreciate it when employers, one of my employees started their own business.
Yeah, and you're actually proud of it.
I'm really proud of it.
Yeah.
We'll sit in here. Sit here. Is that okay? It's okay.
You know, when I'm gesturing this thing,
What's that?
my arms go up just when I'm gesturing.
Just don't knock
Okay. There we go. All right, we're going to move to our next item, which is a informational item. It's an update on the Advanced Manufacturing Cluster and the Portland Enterprise Zone Program. Kevin Johnson, you're in the middle, or is Bruce Allen going to?
I'll start.
Here? Okay.
Bruce. Did we lose another commissioner? Is he coming back?
He's coming back.
Okay. Mr. Strauss just went to take a bite. He'll be back in a second. So you're early today. I've never seen this before. I'm kind of surprised, but we'll try to keep it that way. Bruce Allen. I'm a senior manager in the Business and Industry Division and oversee our work with the E-Zone program and with the Advanced Manufacturing Cluster work. And these two guys are the experts, so I'm going to let them do most of the talking. I just wanted to add a couple extra points for your consideration. So in addition, first of all, we decided to combine these two efforts because both of them include manufacturing companies. In fact, when Andy talks, you'll see that a majority of E-Zone companies are manufacturing companies. And so I thought we'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Even though the programs have different rules and different guidelines, the key common element is the manufacturing companies. Secondly, I wanted to point out that our section also handles the industrial lands issues. We work with other city bureaus and regional bureaus, for that matter, to find ways to increase the supply of industrial land, which is, I think you know, is a big problem, particularly in the city. So we're working on that. Third, we specialize a lot of our work in 2 of our urban renewal districts, the Airport Way and the Willamette Industrial. And Airport Way is entirely industrial, except for some retail at Cascade Station. And the Waiura district is entirely industrial along the Portland Harbor. And then finally, we also have some overlapping boundaries with the Neighborhood Economic Development Program that you just heard about. And so we'll be working with Kate and her staff to make sure that the work that we do in the E-Zone program, the work they do, works together.
So, for example, Andy will talk about some of the programs we have to fund small businesses, and of course, Kate has similar programs, and we want to make sure that we don't step on each other's toes. So with that, I'll let Kevin talk about the Advanced Manufacturing Cluster and Andy talk about E-Zone and get done in our 20-minute time slot.
Thank you. So we're going to begin by taking a look at a map of Portland that has all of our advanced manufacturing firms that have employees of 20 or more listed. And all of the dots represent companies that have 20 or more. And as you can see, most of these are clustered in Northwest Portland, Rivergate, Airport Way, and Central East Side. Manufacturing is vital to our regional economy. And just as it is vital to the U.S. economy and every leading economy in the world. And that's because manufacturing provides good-paying jobs for working families. And in this region, manufacturing pays on average $62,000 a year, which is 25% above the regional average. Also, manufacturing has a higher multiplier impact than other sectors of the economy. For each dollar produced in manufacturing, another $1.43 is created in other parts of the economy. Also, manufacturing is traded sector, meaning that most of what they produce is sold outside of the region, and revenues from those sales are brought back into this region. Over the last year and a half, my colleagues and I have participated in a series of one-on-one meetings with some of the leaders and innovators of the advanced manufacturing cluster. And we've also conducted a series of 5 facilitated meetings with representatives of 30 businesses, ranging in size from 50 employees to over 1,000 employees. And through these meetings, we've learned a lot about what some of the issues, challenges, and opportunities are confronting our industry. And today, I'd like to provide you with some background on what these issues are, and also tell you a little bit about what we're doing to address some of these issues. The first issue is workforce, and we have research and development, lean competitiveness, and supply chain. Although we are experiencing in this country one of the largest unemployment rates that we have had in over a generation, manufacturers are having difficulty filling 600,000 skilled positions throughout the United States. And in this region where we tend to have unemployment that is hovering about 1.1% above the national average, at any particular time we could be in need of having to fill anywhere between 500 and 5,000 manufacturing jobs. And this is because, number one, baby boomers are retiring in record numbers. And across the nation, they're retiring at a rate of 10,000 per day in all sectors. But also because we haven't done a good enough job of nurturing a pipeline of workforce. Parents, teachers, and guidance counselors since the 80s have been steering students away from careers in manufacturing because they look at these jobs or manufacturing as becoming obsolete in this economy. So in order to address this, we are working with a number of partners and doing various types of programming. One of the partners we work with is Work Systems, Inc., and they have been doing a magnificent job of getting funding, federal funding from Washington, D.C. to bring into this area to provide support to our businesses. They've gotten funding for on-the-job training, for incumbent worker training, also for some of the new worker training and other areas. And for our part, we help identify the companies that they need to get some of these funds to, and we get this funding out to those companies. They also maintain a database containing listings of job seekers in all of the occupational fields needed by our manufacturing. And this is very helpful in helping to match companies with some of these job seekers that are out there looking for jobs. And we also have conducted a series of manufacturing workforce programming activities. One of the programs that we did, I'm going to just focus in on that one in particular, is the Manufacturing Career Summit that we did back in November. And this was a very unique program because what it did was we focused on recruiting for exhibiting only advanced manufacturing firms. We just focused on advanced manufacturing, and we focused also on recruiting job seekers who were looking for jobs in manufacturing. We messaged the program in that way, and as soon as we sent this out, within 2 hours, Boeing, PCC Structurals, Gunderson, we had a number of companies that signed up. And by the time this program actually came off, we had 26 manufacturers participating in the program, 4 community colleges participating to promote their training programs, and we also had 4 manufacturing staffing agencies that focus exclusively on manufacturing staffing. We had nearly 700 people who attended that were job seekers, of course, as I mentioned, that had experience and skills in manufacturing in the program. I think right now at least over half of these individuals are currently employed as a result of this program. Now we're going to move on to research and development. In order for our manufacturers to be successful, they need to be continually engaged in research and development and innovation, because innovation is going to create or develop the competitiveness that they're going to need. And innovation also develops the competitiveness that's going to lead to job creation as well. 70% of all research and development that's done in this country in the private sector is done in manufacturing. And 9% of all manufacturing employment is made up of scientists and engineers. And that bears true in this region as well, where many have coined our manufacturers to be engineering firms first and manufacturers second. And the reason they coined them to be this engineering firms first is because they utilize a high level of engineering and metallurgy in producing very highly customized products. And our companies don't tend to produce 10,000 or even 1,000 of any particular item. They tend to produce 100, 50, 10, or just one highly customized item that is of high quality and that can demand a very high competitive price. Now, to make sure that our manufacturers are going to remain competitive, we have a couple of things that we're engaged in. One is we're partnering with the Manufacturing 21 Coalition on launching this new Northwest Collaboratory for Sustainable Manufacturing. And what this is, it's a partnership among 5 universities to provide research and development assistance to our companies. And the universities include Oregon State University, University of Oregon, Portland State University, Washington State University, and Oregon Institute of Technology. And their primary objective is to meet the applied research and workforce, technical workforce needs of our manufacturers. We are also planning to conduct a launch of this new collaboratory that's going to be conducted on the 29th of this month. Also, as many of you know, we've recently received the Jobs Innovation and Accelerator Challenge Grant, and through this grant, we are going to be able to help to establish this collaboratory even more firmer, because we're going to be looking to help some of our traditional manufacturers transition into the clean tech industry and using some of the GIAC or the Jobs Innovation and Accelerator Grant funds to accomplish this task. The next area of high importance involves lean efficiency improvements. One of the companies that came to one of our facilitated meetings indicated that his customers had told him that if they're able to get their product within 30% of the offshored price, the product coming in from China, then they would rather, or they prefer to purchase from them rather than purchasing from the company from China. And the reason this came up in the context of lean is because it was an emphasis on rising costs. Since the 90s, costs have been rising at a very steady rate, but prices have not kept up with the rise in costs. And so to address these costs, manufacturers realize that the best way in order to do this is to focus exclusively on lean manufacturing efficiency improvements, and this has been able to help companies increase their efficiencies by as much as 60% and reduce their costs. And so in order to provide this assistance to companies, we work very closely and we partner with the Oregon Manufacturing Extension Partnership. And we've been partnering with them since 2005. And since that time, first let me tell you, we provide 50% of the assistance that goes to these companies. And the companies put in 50% of the cost. And so since 2005, we have provided nearly $600,000 in assistance, and companies have put in nearly $600,000. So the total expended for lean manufacturing assistance has been $1.2 million. This has been a very successful program, and we plan to keep this program going. The next area, or the final area that I'm going to focus on today, involves supply chain. During the facilitated meetings, the facilitator asked the attendees at one of the meetings if there was one thing that we could provide for them, what would that one thing be? And the response was almost in unison. Everyone said more customers. And so we are helping companies develop more customers in a variety of ways. The first way is we're working with this new database called the Northwest Connectory Database that's being championed by the Pacific Northwest Defense Coalition. And first of all, we want to get as many companies as possible into this database, and then we work towards promoting this database not only in this region, but outside of this region, throughout the United States and throughout the world. We're trying to increase our sales from this region throughout the world. And the benefit of this particular database is that, number one, it has information on there that gives it unique features that most other databases that's in cyberspace do not provide. And that's why we're focusing a lot of emphasis on this. The other good thing is that many of the economic development organizations, both here in Oregon and in Washington, are using the same database. All of our companies are mixed together, and so everybody's working to promote this together. The other things we're doing is trying to get as many of our companies involved in the supply chains, renewable energy supply chains in particular. This has been very successful. We've brought some of the original equipment manufacturers in town to meet with some of our traditional manufacturers to try to get them involved in this process, and we've taken some of our companies to various trade shows. And finally, we've been working to get our companies involved in our traditional manufacturers involved in the high-speed rail supply chain opportunity that's just opened up. And we recruited 8 businesses to travel down to California, to Sacramento, and they're there right now, just today, participating in a supply chain program with some of the companies that are looking to come here and build out a new high-speed rail system for California and Illinois. And this completes my portion of the presentation, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Commissioners Patrick, for giving us the opportunity to present. My name is Andy Reed. I'm going to be discussing the Portland Enterprise Zone, basically giving an overview and a highlight of what's been going on over the last couple of years. So just as a summary, this is a program that allows for a 5-year tax abatement of property taxes for firms making substantial new investment. There is no loss to taxing jurisdictions, since taxes that are currently on the rolls stay on the rolls. And so this is really targeted towards a new investment. If the investment didn't come, the taxes wouldn't come either. So this is a map that you'll see there of the current boundary of the Portland Enterprise Zone. It's located in northeast Portland, northwest as well. There's some overlap in Waiyura and interstate URAs. And again, this is targeted towards the communities in northeast Portland. So basically, I'm going to cover three things today. I'm going to discuss current successes around the Portland Enterprise Zone, benefits to the community, and current budgets and future projections over the next few years. So first, we'd like to talk about the legislative issues that have been happening in the last couple of years. And in 2011, the legislature spent some significant time working on economic development tools. Enterprise Zone was one of those that came to the forefront. That's happening again in 2012. The E-Zone program exists in 60 different areas around the state. So when the legislature acts, it really updates and passes laws that affect all the enterprise zones, and we're one of those 60. So this last year, the legislature signed into law basically 2 things that were relevant to us here in Portland. First, it amended the enterprise zone program to extend the program through 2025. It was about to expire this year, and they'd been kind of piecing together every 2 or 3 years. So this was a commitment from the state to basically say, we believe that this is a really strong program and we want to keep it here for a long time. So that was good news. And the second one is the e-commerce tax credit was also extended till 2017. That was about to expire as well. If you recall, about a year ago, we were here talking about Rentrack, and they were a firm that retained 200 plus employees and used the e-commerce tax credit that was our major incentive that really helped them to stick around here in Portland. Also, it's pretty important to note that Multnomah County was supportive of these changes as well. They were here talking about Rentrack, and they were down at the legislature as well discussing these programs and how they believe it's really important for the city and the county. For 2012, there are some currently proposed changes to statute as well. As of this morning, the bill is still alive. We found out, which is good news. they're looking to increase the E-zone area from 12 to 15 square miles. And what that means for us is we are currently at 11.9 square miles. Essentially, we cannot add much more property, one here and there if we chose to, but if we wanted to make any more changes, we're basically locked into our current area. The second thing that it would potentially do is extend the tax abatement from a 5-year tax abatement to 6 years, and that would allow cities like the City of Portland as a sponsor to grant an additional year of tax abatement for companies entering the program. So this is a really interesting chart. When I pulled this together, I saw some things that I'd like to share with you that I didn't understand or know, and hopefully this kind of help to explain how the program has a strong impact even in down times. So if you look to the left, you'll see the range of investment. Above each of these charts, you'll see the total amount committed by firms in that particular year. Embedded inside the chart, you'll have the numbers of companies, or underneath the chart, you see the numbers of companies that enrolled in that particular year. And as you look through this chart, you'll see dips and rises in the levels of investment. And this obviously correlates directly with the recessions that we've had in around 2001-ish, and also the one that we recently had. It's important to note, though, that the investments in 95, 96, and in 2005, 6, and 7, those were the initial year that the investment was committed. And it took 1, 2, 3 years to get those investments actually implemented. So during the down times in the economy, these E-zone companies were still pumping money into their particular investments. And you'll see a little bit later in 2009, 2010, how that affected local procurement, for example. And so this is, you can see these rises and falls. 2011 was one of our best years coming out of the recession. I say that for a couple of reasons. One, because we've seen somewhat of a shift in the kinds of firms applying. Not only do we have kind of larger investments, 10 million and above, but more recently, I think the last 4 pretty serious applications, 3 or 4 that I've gotten, have been smaller investments, and meaning down to about $400,000. And so for small businesses in Northeast Portland, this is becoming a tool that is getting out there, and they're becoming aware of a benefit to them. $30,000 in tax savings for a small business is significant. And so if we can facilitate that, that's, again, another tool that we can stick in our toolbox here for firms. In 2011, you'll see a significant jump, and that's, of course, solar power has to do with a lot of that. But we also have 7 firms that came in. On the far right-hand side, you'll see 2012, we have at least 2 firms that we're anticipating enrolling. They aren't set yet. The applications aren't finished, but we're making a lot of progress. This gives us an idea of the kinds of companies that are enrolled in the Portland Enterprise Zone. As Bruce mentioned, manufacturing is one of the strongest industries that we work with. Just under that to the right, you'll see food manufacturing, and we don't necessarily focus on that here at PDC, food manufacturing, but they are a traded sector, every single one of them. And so they are bringing money into the economy, even though it's not the traditional manufacturing that Kevin is working on. So every single one of these categories has either cluster or traded sector businesses in them. And I would say the vast majority of the firms support that work. For example, a couple of our companies, such as Opus Creative and OIA Global, they do advertising marketing for cluster firms, and OIA Global does shipping and distribution, for example, for Nike. So they're in the supply chain. Although we wouldn't necessarily know that unless we dug deeper. One more thing about that, I'll get to the next slide here. So these companies, in 2009, we had some new companies start coming in. We had a gap there for a couple years of very little investment. But like I said, the floodgates have opened up a bit. The first thing to note here is these are estimated investments, and so what a company does may not actually line up with what they say they're going to do. Things change, they invest more, they invest less, but this is the number that they've given us to say, here's our plan. Down towards the bottom, you'll see Profile Laser, ASE Supply, those are two small firms that are coming in with smaller investments compared to, let's say, Solo Power with their $348 million investment. So the range is significant. One thing to note about the jobs, in all of these firms, I went back and looked at whether these were retention jobs or whether they were new jobs. And the only firm that actually did retention of employment connected to this program with PDC was Rentrac. And so that was about 200. So about 600 of these jobs that we're anticipating or have already occurred in the Portland Enterprise Zone are new jobs connected to this program. So talking about the benefits to small and large businesses, I've discussed the types of firms coming in already. We also have a local policy that dictates how we spend our funds here in the Portland area. We have local procurement plans that every company has to write and submit to us and commit to increasing procurement year over year. We also have funds that they pay in to PDC to support small businesses and local workforce. We're going to be, as Bruce mentioned, working directly with the folks who are working on the NED strategy because there's just so much crossover with the kind of stuff that this could be used for and what is happening there. So this is a snapshot in 2009-2010 fiscal year, getting to the point of in the times of recession, we still have investment happening. The total amount of actual investment was about $170 million. The total FTE connected to all of our projects during this period of time was 2,800, average hourly benefits $7 an hour, in addition to their salaries of about $23 an hour. So again, good firms, good companies, good wages. The one that I thought was really interesting is the local procurement. They spent almost $50 million buying services and materials within the city of Portland, not the region, but within the city of Portland. So again, the benefit to our area is significant.
Question there, if I may? Sure. Does that include their construction costs, or is that just costs of materials once they're up and running?
Most of that has to do with services and supplies going into their business. So typically when I look at their plans, it does not have to do with construction costs. That's in addition to their local procurement. Yeah.
But the investment number, the $170 million, just to get to Commissioner Mullis's question, that investment includes, what's included in that number?
That's construction costs, overhead, buying buildings, building buildings, TA, yeah. So our current budget and future projections, again, these are estimates. The first number you see there, the $1.7 million, those are actual funds that we have in the bank today. The Workforce Training Business Development Fund, this is a program or an element of the program where each company pays in 15% of their tax abatement to PDC, and then 60% goes to work systems to provide workforce training, to provide a pipeline of employees for E-Zone companies. 40% stays at PDC, and we administer that for small business development programs. We're currently working, again, with the NED team to figure out how to best use those funds. There's money that we're ready to spend, and we need to get it out to the community. So we're making an effort for that right now. Our 2011-2012 projections, we've got $500,000 coming in this year. And in 2012 through 2017, we anticipate another $3 to $4 million in addition. This is for current existing companies that we know about. Any new companies that we don't know about that are enrolling this year or next year, of course, that number will increase. Or potentially it could decrease if a company changes their plans. Our 15% is attached to their actual tax abatement. So if their investment levels decreased, then we wouldn't see as much money coming into the fund. So in summary, we have our active E-Zone companies have or will invest between $400,000 and $348 million in the next couple of years. In the near future, we anticipate about $500 million of new investment. All E-Zone companies will create or retain approximately 3,000 jobs. A note to that, if a company does not retain the jobs that they've committed to, they lose their tax abatement. So this is a very serious program, and companies take it seriously, as does the county and the state and PDC. Since '96, we've leveraged more than $1 billion of private investment. Again, we're going to be seeing about another $500 million attached to that in the near future. It really is our best tool to incent new investment. and the only tool significant enough to compete with other regions and other states. Thank you.
Next slide. So anyway, I really like working with these guys. They make me look so good. They're truly knowledgeable about both their areas, and we do great work with them. Just to close, some of our priorities for the next 12 months, working closely with our workforce partners, particularly Work Systems Inc., to help get these jobs into the people that need them. Also, working with the Northwest Collaboratory to get that up and running. Supply chain opportunities, both through trade shows and some of the programs that Kevin and others sponsor, along with our export strategy. And finally, as Andy talked about, working with the newly formed E-Zone Advisory Committee. They've only met once in January. And to get this money out the door to some of the folks in the businesses in Northeast Portland. And those are our focuses, foci for the next year. And we'd be happy to answer questions.
Okay, great. Thanks to all of you for that presentation. Commissioner Dixon, questions, comments?
Well, thank you for that presentation. It was quite a bit of information. And I do remember when you came last year for the RenTrack usage of the e-credits that they got. And isn't that something that hasn't been utilized as much as we would like, if I recall from last year? And you're hoping that maybe this year, or do you already have a good number of companies coming in this year that will be able to utilize some of those credits?
Yeah, so one of the strategies we're taking now is when a new company calls, small, large, medium, doesn't really matter, I promote it. Okay. Because an example of this would be solar power. As they were making decisions about where they were going to invest, we basically said, look, if you move some of your services around, vendor sales, bringing in software equipment to process your orders, you bring it to Portland, you can get an e-commerce tax credit, in which they are going to do. So it's just an example of how internally we're spending time there. So.
Right, because I think as long as people understand how it works, I think that's probably part of what makes it not utilized as much as we'd like. And I'm really glad that you're going to bring that into the smaller businesses as well, because when you don't know the programs are out there, it's hard to go after them. So I'm glad that we're linking that with our small businesses as well. And then in terms of some of the issues that the manufacturing companies face with being able to recruit the types of jobs or the level of skilled workers that we need, how are we going to make sure that we can have students who are coming out of college know that, these jobs are available, but what level of skill they would need to have? I mean, what's the average employer looking for when they are looking for jobs from students that are graduating from college, for instance?
Well, let me first begin by saying that the manufacturing community, workforce community have been doing a much better job of messaging all of the opportunities that exist in manufacturing, talking about the higher pay, talking about the career opportunities that are existing. And this has helped to bring a lot more attention to a lot of people who are looking for careers. As far as the schools are concerned, we also conducted a program that brought the manufacturers and some of the community colleges together so they could talk about how the manufacturers or the schools could better tweak the programs to meet some of their needs. And the schools are doing a magnificent job. But the manufacturers are trying to stay in close contact with schools so they know that they need CNC machinists, the machinists that can operate do some of the machine work and using computer technology to do that, and regular machinists, non-CNC machinists. They need both of those. They need production workers. They need welders. And so they work very closely with the schools to make sure that they're getting the type of people that they need. And now is a very important time for a lot of our manufacturers. They're in a ramp-up phase right now.
Kevin, just to follow up on that, how would you break down the job opportunities that are for somebody who's high school grad or maybe high school grad plus some additional education versus college educated folks who would need a college degree? It seems like we still have a significant number of opportunities for folks who don't have a college degree.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, there are people who are coming who can just walk directly into a job, a manufacturing job, and get a job. All the manufacturers are looking for are that they have good ethics, they can show up on time, and that they consistently have clean urine. I shouldn't have said that. Excuse me.
Don't put that in the minutes.
Okay. And the other areas that they look at is they want to make sure that a lot of the community college programs are 6 months, 1 year, and some are 2 years. And so within a 1 year or 2 year period of time, somebody could come out and begin working and making well above living wage salaries, $20 an hour, $17 to $20 an hour, just coming out of college or community college. Boeing at this particular time has a 4-month program at Edmonds Community College that they are hiring directly out of. If people go to that program, they can come out of that program. I think they're hiring 85 to 90% of the people coming out of that program right now. So it all depends on what course or direction they take, but there are good jobs waiting for them when they finish a 1 year or 2 year program, typically.
Let me just add that some of those courses that we're talking about at community colleges, they're on 3 shifts. So they have evening classes, I think maybe are their most popular. I'm not sure. I think they have a 3 overnight shift too, don't they?
Some of the schools, Mount Hood Community College, I believe, has one that begins at 8 o'clock. So they do have 8 o'clock in the evening. So they do have 3 shifts going in some of the schools.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Strauss.
Portland should be the poster child to the federal government about bringing manufacturing back to the states and right here in Portland, Oregon. I really appreciate your efforts, Kevin.
Absolutely. Thank you.
A couple of questions. Are there federal grants going to be available? What are our efforts in pursuing those? That's the first question. Second question is, there are several major manufacturers that have secondary businesses that support them. What are our efforts to get some of those secondary businesses to move into Portland to support those major manufacturers, such as Intel, such as Nike, such as Boeing? How do we work with those companies to get their supply chain move closer to them and bring those manufacturing jobs here to Portland?
Well, we go to trade shows, and when we do go to trade shows, we try to make sure that when we're meeting with companies that we let them know exactly what's happening in this region. So if they're looking to make a move in the future, and we come across a lot of companies that are looking to make a move in the next 2, 3, 4 years, and many of them want to come to the West Coast. So we try to present information that helps demonstrate why the West Coast would be a good home for them. For example, if they sell to Daimler, if they're selling to ESCO or to one of our existing supply chain companies, then they have a good opportunity. But we're also working on trying to get some of our renewable energy companies to come to this region, and to also look at trying to get other supply chain companies to move to this area to support or to supply the wind industry, for example. There's a lot happening in the wind industry, a lot happening in the wave industry, a lot happening in solar industry, and most of what they're producing is going to be made out of metal products, and so that really gives us an advantage because that's where we specialize.
Federal funds. And federal funding.
And federal funding. There's now Work Systems is doing, as I mentioned, a magnificent job of getting funding in for workforce development. And the PDC took the lead on this recent grant that we've gotten, and it's the Jobs Innovation Accelerator Challenge Grant. And that has 4 aspects that we're primarily involved in. One is research and development, commercialization. The other is supply chain involvement, and the only 2 areas that I'm really involved in are those 2, but there are 2 others. One involving workforce development, and also getting some of our smaller companies involved in helping to build out some of these supply chains. So that's a very good opportunity for us because it's going to help get the type of research and development assistance that we need to get our companies moving into some of these new areas. And that, as far as my knowledge is that's the only real grant that I'm knowledgeable of. I think other people in PDC, Patrick, probably have a lot more detail about other types of grants that we're getting in to support manufacturing.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We already spoke about the workforce issue a bit. But I just wanted to touch on it a little bit more, and I think Kevin spoke to it a bit during his presentation. And I do sense attitudes are shifting out there, but it really has to happen in the high schools at the latest, if not even the middle schools, of starting the conversation that and the realization that not everybody's going to college. I mean, that is just not factual. I mean, if you look at the statistics of what's happening now and what's projected in the future, that's not true. And obviously a lot of people are, and we need those folks for Iberdrola and the engineers and the design folks that are sitting in their office. But just like Kevin said, there's a lot of people that can come right out of high school or maybe do a little bit of time in a community college or an apprenticeship program and end up with a very good family wage job with good benefits. And I think the disinvestment in the high schools over the last 20 years in shop classes has been very detrimental, not only and has contributed to the shortage that we face now, but I think it also affects the high school graduation rate, because there's going to be a certain amount of students that are trying to learn math in a classroom setting that it doesn't make sense to them. It does not stick. But if you take that same math curriculum or science curriculum, put them in a wood shop, put them in a metal shop, put them in an auto shop, it sticks, and they're going to graduate, and they're going to stick with it, and they're going to come out and become a productive member of society. So I just think all of us need to collaborate our efforts from those points forward, and it's all part of the solution that we're talking about now. And we can't, again, overemphasize the importance of growing the manufacturing industry in this area, not only from the family wage jobs that it creates, but the taxes that the people pay that support the public services that we all need, that we're all struggling every day to find those monies for. And then the last thing, and Bruce, you mentioned it in your opening remarks, and I don't know how deep we want to get into it today, but just the shortage of industrial lands and the struggles that we have to bring brownfields back into production. Again, I don't know how deep we want to get into it today, but I think we have to continue to recognize that's an issue, it's a problem, and we're all going to need to work on it to get some of these lands back into production, so that when a manufacturer comes along and says, I want to expand, or somebody new comes to town that says, I want to locate here, we've got 25s and 50s and 100 acres of plots that we can show them.
Just real quick. In terms of the industrial land inventory, others are working probably more than PDC, although we're partnering with them. So Metro, particularly the port, on a regional basis. But that's a tough nut to crack, as you know, because you can't just make those lands, particularly inside the city. On the brownfield side, I'm happy to say that PDC is looked at as pretty much an expert at developing brownfields. We've done so much of it downtown, South Waterfront, the Pearl District, Union Station, and to some extent in the neighborhood. So when it comes to looking at how to actually get that done, I sit on 2 or 3 different committees that are gaining some steam. In addition, the mayor has asked us to take the lead on doing a request for proposals up at the Portland Harbor. So to look for firms that are willing to partner with the city to see if we can get some of those brownfields, underway. So, but both of those are tough. We're very experienced at the second and working with everybody else on the first, the inventory.
Good, thank you. Director Quinton, any comments?
I think the only thing I would just want to point out, is it possible to go back to the map just really quick? Because I do just want to point out that we do see the ties that it's been mentioned, but I think it's visually, you can see how it makes a ton of sense. The manufacturing corridors that we have in our city and where the E-zone goes really abuts a lot of the neighborhoods that we're working in. North Portland, Northeast Portland, outer Northeast Portland, and even into East Portland. If you follow those dots up and around, all the neighborhoods that are adjacent to our manufacturing corridors in the E-zone are the neighborhoods they're working in. And so I think there is a great opportunity to find not just workforce connections, but supply chain connections and working with local firms. I mean, I do think there's a lot of opportunity to tie what we're working on in our neighborhoods with our very strong manufacturing base and with the incentives of the enterprise zone program. You bring a company into the enterprise zone, you're bringing a company into Portland neighborhoods is what's happening. So I look forward to strengthening those connections. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions for this esteemed panel? Okay, if not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I believe that is the last item on our agenda. Any other business? Any special subcommittees we can appoint Commissioner Wilhoit to in his absence? Okay, seeing none, we'll adjourn. Thank you very much.